Sil kept insulting my husband for being a stay-at-home dad. I snapped and told her how my husband supported their entire family during hard times at her wedding dinner. Let me explain. I'm 28, my husband Jason is 29, and we've been married for 3 years. We met 6 years ago through my brother, who's pals with Jason from their jobs. Jason used to be a cop, and my brother runs a pizza joint where Jason would hang out. They hit it off, and my brother invited him over for Thanksgiving one year. That's how we first met, and soon after, I asked him out, and we started going out. After being together for 3 years, he proposed, and we got married. I'd met his family a few times before the wedding, and most of them were really nice to me, except for my sister-in-law, Janice, who's 27. Even though my mother-in-law was friendly, Janice wasn't. Jason kept saying she'd warm up to me, but she never did. She wasn't openly mean, but she'd make subtle digs and jokes that weren't funny. At first, it bothered me, but eventually I got used to it and ignored her. She never confronted me when Jason was around, probably because she didn't want to risk upsetting him. But he knew how she treated me and made sure I wasn't left alone with her when we visited his family. I didn't want him to cut off his family or his sister because of a few mean comments, so we just ignored her and let her say what she wanted while I tried my best to ignore it. Jason did the same. It wasn't great, but we didn't have many options. We chose to keep the peace in the family and tolerate her behavior towards me. Looking back, I really regret not speaking up sooner and addressing this issue instead of staying silent and feeling insecure. I was worried about being seen as overly sensitive or causing problems within the family. But recently, something happened that made me realize I couldn't stay quiet any longer. Jason used to be a cop but decided to become a stay-at-home dad a few months ago. I'm a trauma surgeon, so balancing work and family is challenging for us. We have a daughter, and finding the right balance has been tough. Both of us have demanding jobs, and we couldn't spend as much time at home as we wanted. We had daycare and our parents to help with our daughter, but it wasn't enough. We felt like we were missing out on being there for her as she grew up. So about a year ago, Jason and I had a serious talk about it. He decided to leave his job as a cop to be with our daughter more. It was his choice. I didn't pressure him. He felt it was fair since I earned more, and he wanted our daughter to have one of us around most of the time. I asked him countless times if he was sure about becoming a full-time dad before I finally believed he was serious. It was a big decision, especially knowing how much he loved being a cop. I wanted to be sure he wouldn't regret it or resent me. But he seems genuinely happy taking care of our daughter and managing the household. We talked about it recently, and he admitted that it was tough adjusting at first after working for so long. However, as time passed, he grew more comfortable with it, especially since he gets to spend quality time with our daughter. He's content with how things have turned out for him. He doesn't have any complaints because he believes his dream job has shifted from being a cop to being a father, which he finds beautiful. However, his family doesn't share the same sentiment. I should have anticipated this because they're quite traditional. While they allow women to work, they don't approve of men staying home. None of the men in his family do household chores because they see it as beneath them. As a result, the women end up juggling both work and household duties, or they're pressured to quit their jobs, like my mother-in-law did. What's baffling is that they don't see anything wrong with this setup. They consider it normal. Jason and I both find this mindset ridiculous but haven't addressed it with his family to avoid pointless arguments and cover-ups for their outdated views. If they're content with their lifestyle, who are we to criticize? Luckily, Jason and I always divide responsibilities equally, and sometimes he even does more around the house if I'm working late. Now, with him at home full-time, we've adjusted, and as long as everyone's happy and healthy, and there's food on the table, the division of labor doesn't matter. However, his parents and sisters strongly disagree with this. They believe Jason's decision to leave his job and stay home makes him less of a man. They've been arguing about it for months. I initially tried to step in, but his parents made it clear it would only worsen their relationship. Jason didn't want me involved either, so I stayed out of it. It took them some time, but they eventually accepted our new arrangement and haven't mentioned it in months. It also helped that they had other things to focus on, like Janice getting married. Her boyfriend of 2 years, Harry, proposed, and suddenly everyone was preoccupied with the wedding plans, which took the spotlight off Jason for a while. We were grateful for the distraction because it gave us some relief from the pressure. His family stopped questioning Jason's decision to leave his job, and we thought the issue had blown over. But at Janice's rehearsal dinner yesterday, the topic resurfaced, leading to my outburst. With Janice's wedding happening soon, we need to address this quickly. It's urgent, so we'd appreciate a prompt response. During dinner, Jason and I sat across from Janice and Harry, surrounded by their parents and a few other relatives. We were all engaged in a pleasant conversation, nothing too contentious, and I was relieved that things seemed back to normal with his family. It was a significant improvement, especially considering how upset they had been when Jason left his job. I didn't expect any trouble, but then Janice veered off topic and asked me about my work. I felt uneasy but answered politely, hoping to avoid any conflict. However, I sensed where she was headed. I kept my response brief, hoping she'd drop it. Then she turned to Jason, asking about his job and joking about how he now enjoys a carefree life, living off my income. She didn't stop there, insinuating that I was the one in charge now. She made a string of jokes that hit below the belt, teasing Jason while he tried to maintain a smile and ignore it all. But I couldn't bear it any longer. I lost my composure. It felt like years of irritation and months of dealing with Jason's family and their outdated beliefs have finally boiled over. Something inside me snapped, and I decided to address the elephant in the room. I told her that despite her jokes, Jason was a better man and person than anyone in their family combined. I reminded her of something nobody wanted to talk about, Jason's significant contributions to their family. I pointed out that without Jason's financial support, Janice wouldn't have been able to attend college or meet Harry. Since he was 18, Jason had been giving money to his parents to help them, especially after his father lost his job when Jason was in high school. Janice, oblivious to her family's struggles, had been indulged by her parents, and Jason had shielded her from their financial difficulties. They never denied her anything, even when they were struggling, to spare her worries. Jason had to take on 2 jobs to support his family while his father searched for better employment. They endured this hardship for over a year, relying on Jason's income and some savings to get by. Janice remained unaware of their struggles. Her family shielded her from the truth. However, I revealed it at the rehearsal dinner, shocking everyone. It was a long-held secret, and discussing it was taboo. But after nearly a decade, I felt it needed to be addressed. Now, Janice understood the sacrifices her brother had made for her, and she had no right to mock him. While others may have kept the truth from her to preserve her innocence, I couldn't remain silent. My revelation left the dinner table in silence, prompting Jason and me to excuse ourselves. As we walked back to our hotel room, silence lingered between us, and even after we arrived, we avoided discussing the events of the dinner. I knew the situation would escalate, and so did Jason, but his lack of further discussion signaled that he didn't believe I had done anything wrong. Therefore, we didn't feel the need to talk about it. However, it did indeed blow up. The next morning, I was awakened by knocking on our door. Jason's parents were there, wanting to talk to me immediately. After they came in and we all sat down, they cut to the chase. The family expected me to apologize to Janice. They felt that what I had revealed at dinner had been kept from her intentionally, and it wasn't appropriate for me to disclose it. The mood of the evening had been ruined, they explained, as Janice was now miserable and couldn't stop crying, all because of what I had said. They argued that Janice was simply teasing Jason in a typical sibling manner, so there was no need for me to react so defensively and reveal such a significant family secret, knowing the impact it would have. Janice now felt immense guilt, expressing how she had unknowingly burdened the family for years. She was in turmoil, repeatedly apologizing to her parents. This meltdown was precisely why they had shielded her from the truth all these years. They believed she was emotionally fragile and incapable of handling such revelations, a sentiment that seemed evident in her current state. Now, they expected me to apologize to Janice and the rest of the family for my outburst. They're also urging me to reassure her that my comments at dinner weren't meant to hurt her and to resolve this situation. I have until the end of the day to decide, but they want me to act before her wedding tomorrow. Luckily, there's a 1-day gap between the rehearsal dinner and her wedding due to some of her friends arriving today, giving me time to think. Jason believes I shouldn't apologize because I was simply defending him, and Janice has often treated me rudely, so it's justified retaliation without any regrets. I've been leaning towards this viewpoint myself, but with her wedding approaching, I'm hesitant to cause her further distress. While most of her family insists I owe her an apology, their opinion may be biased. Even Jason's stance could be influenced by his loyalty to me. Seeking a neutral perspective, I've turned to Reddit for advice. Update 1. It's now evening, and after considering the comments, I've concluded that I owe no apology. Jason and I are currently packing our things to leave because attending Janice's wedding tomorrow without apologizing would feel awkward. We'll inform his parents of our departure, as it would be impolite to leave without a word. Jason and I discussed this earlier, and he believes it's the appropriate action to take. He feels Janice's past insensitivity and rudeness warrant consequences. He confided in me that dealing with his family had become increasingly challenging since he left his job. He had hoped for their support but instead felt undermined and criticized for prioritizing time with our daughter. We were aware of his family's outdated views on gender roles and chores, but we hoped they would change. However, they chose to cling to their traditional beliefs rather than adapt. If we decide to cut ties with them now, it's because of their lack of support. We're content with our lives, and if they can't share in our happiness, we prefer not to engage with their negativity. Their behavior over the past few months has been consistently critical and pessimistic towards our choices. So it's time for us to say goodbye to these individuals. Honestly, Jason and I only stayed connected out of a sense of duty, but we can't endure their behavior any longer. I've tolerated enough disrespect disguised as jokes and concern, as has Jason. It's crucial for us to establish boundaries and make it clear that these boundaries are non-negotiable. We refuse to tolerate such treatment any longer. We teach others how to treat us, and we've set a poor example for ourselves thus far. However that ends now, it's time for everyone to understand how we expect to be treated. If they can't respect us and our choices, then they have no place in our lives. Update 2. So Jason and I are back home now. It didn't go over well with his parents when we informed them that we wouldn't be apologizing and we're leaving. They seemed shocked and upset, probably expecting us to just swallow our pride and go along with their wishes. When Jason mentioned that we wouldn't be attending the wedding ceremony either, they reacted strongly, raising their voices and insisting that we stay. They argued that our absence would raise questions and potentially ruin Janice's big day. Jason firmly explained that we weren't comfortable attending given the lack of respect we felt from Janice and others, who expected us to apologize merely for standing up for ourselves. They had been treating us poorly ever since Jason left his job, and we couldn't tolerate it any longer. This was us drawing a line because we had reached our limit. In response, Jason's parents accused us of being selfish and warned us about the consequences of our actions. They argued that our absence of the ceremony, after attending all the other events, would create a spectacle and shift the focus away from Janice and her wedding. We debated for a while until Janice herself arrived at the room. Having overheard the commotion, she came to investigate. Her parents briefed her on the situation, and to our surprise, she expressed her approval of our decision not to attend the wedding. In fact, she preferred it that way. She addressed me directly, making it clear she didn't want me at her wedding. According to her, I had selfishly ruined her rehearsal dinner to cause trouble at her wedding. This led to a petty argument between us, which I regret because it only added unnecessary tension. However, it provided us with an excuse to leave without further confrontation. They didn't try to stop us as we departed, which was a relief as we lacked the energy for another argument. We wished Janice well with her wedding, but we no longer wished to associate with her or Jason's parents. Reconciliation might be possible if they apologize, but I doubt that will happen anytime soon. For now, we're simply relieved to be home. We picked up our daughter from my parents' place on the way back, and Jason is currently playing with her while I write this update. Despite the turmoil, our family feels perfect just the way it is, and I won't let anyone convince me otherwise. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's been a day since the wedding. Although we weren't there, we've heard that our absence sparked a lot of discussion, mostly instigated by Janice herself. It's ironic that her parents feared our absence would draw attention away from her special day and focus on our conflict with Janice. However, Janice seemed to embrace the idea and made our absence a central topic of conversation. Some distant relatives who hadn't witnessed the rehearsal dinner incident heard all about it from Janice after the ceremony. It seems Janice couldn't resist stirring up drama and spent the entire day talking about our conflict. I can't say I'm surprised by her behavior. The downside is that now, Anyone outside the family is reaching out to Jason to inquire about the situation. Everyone wants to feel involved and uncover the truth. However, we've chosen not to entertain these inquiries. We have no interest in engaging with his family unless they apologize, which doesn't seem likely. Therefore, we're opting to stay out of the drama and let them handle their affairs. In our responses to texts, we've been deliberately vague to maintain the high ground and avoid unnecessary conflict. Engaging would only fuel further tension, and it's clear that Janice thrives on drama. We're aware that his family would relish any opportunity to criticize us, so we're opting to disengage. We've always avoided getting caught up in their drama, and we intend to continue doing so.